Microelements are a very big part of media products today, whether it be editing, sound, or even cinematography, and microelements are a huge part of film in particular, and to prove it, I analysed one of my favourite films, Baby Driver. Baby Driver is an action comedy film that was released in 2017 and features an all-star cast with the likes of Ansel Elgort, Jamie Foxx, John Hamm, and Isaac Gonzalez. The movie was also directed by Edgar Wright, who you may know for the TV show Space, or for big motion pictures such as Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, or his horror comedy flick, Shaun of the Dead. Now, the amount of work and energy that Wright put into Baby Driver is not to be understated in the slightest, as everything in this film, down to the tiniest of details, is perfectly executed. And so I've taken it upon myself to analyse the microelements of Baby Driver. What can be argued as the selling point of this film, Wright puts a lot of work into the sound design, and with the soundtrack, he takes things a step further by using the music to his advantage. Because the music is a big part of the film's plot, much like James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy films. But unlike those films, Wright manages to sync the fight sequences in the film to the music playing over it. Now, a good example of this would be in a scene towards the film's final act, where Baby, Buddy, Darling and Bat are buying some guns from a contact of Doc's, but then Bat realises they're cops, or pigs as he puts it, and a shootout occurs, and whenever a gunshot is heard, it's directly synced up to the music being played in the background. And another good example would be at one point in the film when Baby has one of his earphones knocked out, and if you're watching the film with headphones in or with speakers, then the music will play in one side of the headphones or the speakers. Now, the camera work in the film, much like the work and energy Wright puts into the film, is not to be understated. One thing that Edgar does well with his movies is the camera work, and if possible, you could compare it with some of his other films. A good example would be some of his more popular films, Hot Fuzz, and the action can be somewhat comparable to that. The action in both this and Baby Driver include fast-cut, close-up action, and while in some films that wouldn't really work, and a good example of that not working would be a Michael Bay film, the action in Wright's films is always very intriguing and well put together. Also, Wright uses a very interesting use of camera angles and shots. Now, a good example would be in the film's opening, when we get a tracking shot of Baby walking through the streets as he heads to the coffee shop and then walking back to the criminal hideout. Now, camera angles are also used in the film to some degree, and a good example of this would be a high angle, which is used during the film's opening car chase to show the helicopter chasing the bank robbers. The editing in Baby Driver is also a big point of what sold the film and led to its critical success across the world. Anyway, the editing in the film is arguably the best part, as it led to the previously mentioned fast-cut action, which is definitely another part that sold the film for me. The editing, much like the action, has also been synced up to the music, and a good example of this is once again during the film's opening car chase. During this aforementioned car chase, a police car crashes into the passing vehicle, and at one point a crash effect can be heard at the same time when the camera cuts from the cars back to Baby driving the red car. Mise-en-scène has its roots in theatre and is one of the key components within the media language. Mise-en-scène, by definition, is putting in the scene or everything you see on screen, or placing on the stage, depending if you're watching a theatre production. However, mise-en-scène also includes visual information in front of the camera, and it communicates essential information to the audience. Now, I analysed Baby Driver searching for the 5 main components of mise-en-scène, and these 5 components being setting and props, costume, hair and makeup, facial expressions and body language, lighting and colour, and position of characters and objects in the frame. The first component, settings and props, is especially poignant in the film because one particular mainstay in this movie, in terms of props, is some kind of iPod or MP3 player in the film, which also makes a lot of the music in this film diegetic, meaning that music originates from within the world/environment of the film. Now, setting-wise, one scene that is the most memorable for me at least is the diner, where Baby meets Deborah towards the film's opening act, and where Baby encounters Buddy in the final act of the film. The second component, which consists of costume, hair and makeup, is another big part of the film as well, because most of the characters, that being Darling, Bats, Griff, No-Nose and JD, all have various tattoos that, while it may tell the audience that yes, these people are criminals, but the tattoos are also part of their characters, and it does make them stand out to a degree. So we'll start off with Darling, played by Isa Gonzalez. Now, Darling's costume is fairly classy in a sense, but in an earlier scene, she is actually spotted wearing a pink dress, and it was also sitting on Buddy's lap. Her makeup is fairly simple, she's wearing some lipstick and some facial makeup as well. Tattoo-wise, while watching the film, I was able to identify two distinct tattoo designs. The first being some kind of writing on her neck, and the second being a flowery sleeve-like design on her arm. Now, the sleeve tattoo design extends on her shoulder and up to just before her forearm. Bats, played by Jamie Foxx, is the one with the mental problems, according to a line of dialogue from the film. Anyway, Bats is primarily dressed in red clothing with some black undertones, and which I think reflects on his personality, given that the colour of red is commonly associated with the devil, and Bats, I think, has similar characteristics in that direction. Now, Bats also has quite the collection of tattoos. On one hand, he has a tattoo of a handgun, and, quite appropriately, has several bat-themed tattoos, but makeup-wise, Bats doesn't really sport any of the features in that area. The next character on the list is Griff, played by John Bernthal, and while his role in the film is small, he does stand out in the film, and much like Bats, has an extensive collection of ink. Now, he has some intricate designs that can be spotted on both forearms, and has some kind of design on his neck as well. Now, in terms of costume, he has a long sleeve shirt with some kind of 3D skull pattern design around the upper chest area. Now, other characters like Flea and JD both have similar costume attributes and tattoo designs, but they do have some unique features as well. Moving on to the other characters, being Baby, Buddy and Doc, these three all sport different costumes, and they're three of the main characters not to sport any visible tattoos. And while Buddy does sport some kind of tattoo design somewhere around his neck, I didn't see it in my first rewatch of the film. So we'll start with Baby. He sports a simple outfit consisting of a white shirt, sports jacket, and some jeans along with some kind of generic sneaker brand. Buddy's character is in the midst of a midlife crisis, according to my research, and as such, the outfit he wears for most of the film is based around said outfit. Now, Buddy wears a checkered shirt, a smart jacket, jeans, and some traditional shoes you would probably get with a three-piece suit. Doc, however, has a very different outfit. He's meant to be the main top dog of the crew, and he's worn a simple two-piece suit with a long coat and glasses. Okay, moving on to facial expressions and body language. These are important parts of the characters in the film. Baby's character doesn't really make any facial expressions, and he's the typical protagonist in a sense, and walks along the street. But when he has his music on, he's dancing down the street. And most of the other characters are all very laid back as well, and also have some aggressive facial expressions depending on the scene. If it's during Darling's death, then Buddy's going to be pissed off, and yeah, the characters are going to have varying facial expressions depending on the scene. The lighting and colour of the movie differs depending on the scenes. For example, if the scene is set in Doc's hideout, then there is a few lights turned on in the base. But if there are scenes set outdoors, then the natural light is probably going to be used in the scene. Now, another example of this would be the scene where Baby and Deborah are on their date, and the candle at the table is used as lighting to make the setting look more romantic. So, in conclusion, all these elements I identified in Baby Driver all attract the audience in a very different way. The camera work draws you in because of the variety of shots and angles, the sound draws you in due to the variety of music, and the editing draws you in because of the fast-cut action that Edgar Wright is known for, and the car chases as well. And that makes the film much more exciting. And finally, the mise-en-scène draws you in because it can give a lot more depth and unique looks to all of the characters. And that is how Baby Driver uses microelements to attract its audience.